In the heart of the land called Udolo, nestled between rolling hills and dense green forest, lived a young girl named Zina. Her name meant light, and perhaps that was why her spirit always sparkled with curiosity and kindness. Zina was different from other children in the village, not in appearance, but in soul. While others played with carved toys or helped their parents with chores, Zina often wandered near the edge of the forest. The elders had warned the children never to go too deep into the woods. The forest remembers what people forget, they would say. But for Zina, the forest didn't feel dangerous. It felt alive. She loved how the wind whispered through the tall Iroko trees, how the leaves danced in the sunlight, and how the birds sang songs she couldn't quite understand. Sometimes, she would sit for hours just listening for something more, something magical. Zina's mother, Mama Abeni, was a weaver known for her beautiful cloth patterns. Her father, Kofi, was a gentleman who carved drums that sang when played. They both loved Zina dearly but often shook their heads when she returned home with twigs in her hair and questions too deep for her age. "Zina, why must you always chase shadows?" Mama Abene would ask. "I'm not chasing shadows, Mama," Zina would say softly. "I'm following light that others don't see." One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in gold and orange, Zina sat under her favorite tree near the forest edge. She was humming an old lullaby when something strange happened. A soft glow appeared between the trees. At first, she thought it was fireflies, but the lights didn't flicker. They floated steadily, like tiny stars moving with purpose. 3, no, 4, maybe more of them. Curious, Zina stood up, brushing dust from her wrapper. She hesitated. The warnings of the elders echoed faintly in her mind. Do not follow what shines in the dark. Some lights are not meant to be touched. But something in her heart whispered louder. Go. So she did. Barefoot and silent, Zina stepped into the forest. The lights led her deeper and deeper, past places she had never seen before, ancient trees with roots like giant fingers, streams that sang, and stones shaped like faces. She didn't feel afraid. The forest welcomed her. The glowing lights weaved ahead of her like threads of gold until they disappeared before a large rock wall hidden behind a thick curtain of vines. Zina stepped closer. The wall wasn't solid, it was the mouth of a cave. Her heart pounded. The air around the cave was warm, heavy with the scent of earth and something else, something ancient. She took a breath and stepped inside. The cave was vast and dimly lit by a faint orange glow that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Zina's footsteps echoed softly as she walked further in. Then she heard it, a low, steady breathing, like wind blowing through a giant drum. Her eyes adjusted, and she gasped. At the end of the cave, curled around a pile of smooth stones and glittering crystals, was a creature she had only heard of in stories. A dragon. Its body was long and powerful, covered in smooth green gold scales that shimmered with every breath. Large folded wings rested at its side, and its tail curled like a sleeping serpent. But what struck her most were its eyes, deep amber, glowing like the setting sun, and filled not with anger, but with something softer, something sad. Zina stood frozen. The dragon opened its eyes fully and looked at her. She didn't run. Instead, she whispered, "Hello." The dragon blinked slowly. Its voice, when it spoke, was deep and gentle, like thunder that didn't want to scare. "You are brave," it said. "Or foolish?" Zina swallowed hard. "Maybe both." The dragon's mouth curved slightly, almost like a smile. "Most would scream or faint. You walk in calmly." "I didn't mean to disturb you," Zina said. "I followed the lights." "The lights," the dragon tilted its head. "Oh, the forest must trust you." Zina stepped closer. Her fear was fading now, replaced by wonder. "What's your name?" The dragon shifted slightly, and the ground trembled. "I am Obodil." It means the king returns home. I have lived in these caves longer than your village has stood. Zina's eyes widened. You speak like a man. Obadiah gave a quiet chuckle. I have learned many things. Watched many lives. But few come here with open hearts. There was silence for a moment. Then Zina asked, Are you lonely? The question seemed to surprise him. The dragon's eyes softened. Yes, he said finally. Yes, I am. Zina walked forward until she was close enough to see the fine patterns on his scales. Then maybe I can be your friend. Obadiah tilted his head. Why would a child offer friendship to a dragon? Because dragons are not meant to be alone, Zina said. And neither am I. From that day, everything changed. Zina began to visit Obadiah in secret. Every day after her chores, she would slip away into the forest, following the memory of the glowing light. Each time, the forest seemed to welcome her more, birds singing her name, flowers blooming in her path. Obadiah would tell her stories of the world before the village, of spirits and stars, of the first songs sung by rivers. In return, Zina brought him tales of the village, of laughter and music, of Mama Abini's stubbornness and Kofi's kindness. They laughed together. Sometimes, they just sat in silence. Though they were different in every way, a strange and beautiful bond was growing between them, one stronger than fear or legend. Zina never told anyone about Obadiah. She knew the villagers wouldn't understand. A dragon. It must be evil, they would say. But Zina saw the truth. Obadiah wasn't a monster. He was a guardian. A soul with scales and sorrow, waiting for someone to see him. And Zina did. The days passed like leaves drifting down a quiet stream. In the village of Udolo, life carried on as usual. Children played by the riverbank, drums echoed in the distance, and the elders gathered beneath the baobab tree to tell tales older than memory. But one girl had found a new rhythm to her days. Every morning, Zina helped her mother weave or swept the compound with her little brothers. She did her chores with care, never letting her parents worry. But every afternoon, as the sun began its slow descent, Zina slipped quietly into the forest. In the fold of her wrapper, she often carried small things, a gourd of sweet water, a bowl of roasted yams, a folded piece of cloth, or a carved figure from her father's workshop. These gifts were not grand, but Obadiah, the dragon, treasured them more than gold. Inside the glowing cave, Obadiah waited each day. The great dragon would rise when he heard Zina's footsteps on the cave floor. His eyes, once dulled by centuries of loneliness, now sparkled with joy. You're late today, he would say, though his tone was always playful. I had to wait for Mama to finish telling her story. She talks too long, Zina would reply, laughing. She would sit near his giant clawed feet and share the day's events. Sometimes she sang songs the village children made up. Sometimes she recited riddles. Sometimes she brought drawings of Obadiah she had sketched in the dirt with sticks. In return, Obadiah told her of the old days, of how the world once spoke in magic, when dragons soared the skies and humans and spirits lived in harmony. He spoke of a time when trees could speak, rivers held secrets, and fireflies were guides for lost hearts. He also taught her things, how to listen to the whispers of wind through trees, how to read messages in bird songs, how to walk softly so the forest would not be disturbed. Zina learned quickly. Her heart was open, her mind eager. You are different from others, Obadiah told her one day as she sat cross-legged before him. You feel the forest as I do. Maybe I was always meant to find you, she said, eyes shining. The dragon's chest rumbled with a soft chuckle. Or perhaps I was always meant to wait for you. But while their friendship bloomed in secret, someone else had begun to notice. His name was Tomba. A strong and clever boy around Zina's age, Tomba lived with his older brothers near the yam fields. He was known in the village for his courage. He could climb the tallest palm trees, catch snakes with a stick, and race faster than anyone his age. Tomba also had a quiet heart, a heart that had quietly fallen for Zina long ago. He had never told her. He didn't know how. Whenever she was near, his words turned to stone in his throat. So instead, he watched from afar, helping her when he could, smiling when she smiled. But lately, he had begun to worry. Zina was disappearing every day. She no longer stayed long at the river or the village square. She slipped away just as the sun dipped low, returning only after dark, her hair full of leaves and her eyes filled with dreams. One evening, as he walked past her house, he saw her rush toward the forest, a basket in her hands. Something stirred in his chest, curiosity, concern, and something darker, the fear that she was keeping secrets. The next day, he followed her. He was careful not to step on dry twigs or let the birds cry out at his passing. He knew the forest well. But Zina seemed to float through it, as if the trees bent to greet her. She moved deeper than he had ever dared to go. Tomba paused behind a thick fig tree as Zina disappeared through a curtain of vines. He held his breath, heart pounding. Slowly, he parted the vines and stepped through. What he saw made his knees nearly buckle. Inside the glowing cave, seated before the most fearsome creature he had ever imagined, was Zina. Her basket lay open with food inside. She was laughing. And the dragon was speaking to her. Tomba stumbled backward, choking on a gasp. He nearly tripped over a root. A dragon. A real one. And Zina was sitting with it as if it were her uncle telling stories by the fire. He turned and ran. Branches whipped his face. Thorns scratched his legs. He ran until the village was in sight and his lungs burned with each breath. He didn't tell anyone right away. He didn't know how. That night, he sat alone under the stars, staring at the moon and trying to make sense of what he saw. Why would Zina befriend a dragon? Had the creature tricked her? Bewitched her? Was she cursed? The more he thought, the deeper his confusion turned into pain. He had always loved her in silence. But now he feared she was lost. Taken by something dark and ancient. He could still see the dragon's glowing eyes in his mind. No, he told himself. This isn't right. I have to protect her. He clenched his fist, jealousy simmering in his heart. The next morning, Tomba tried to speak with Zina. He found her near the well, drawing water into a calabash. Zina, he said quickly, walking up to her. Can I talk to you? Zina looked up, surprised. Of course. He hesitated. You've been gone a lot lately. She smiled gently. I go to the forest. Alone? Tomba asked. Every day. Zina nodded. The forest is peaceful. But it's dangerous, he said sharply. There are things there. Old things. Evil things. Zina's smile faded. Not everything old is evil. Tomba stared at her, frustration bubbling. You've changed. Zina lowered her gaze. Maybe. But not in a bad way. Tomba didn't answer. He turned and walked away, his heart heavy. He had tried. Now, he would do more. That night, as Zina returned to the cave, Obadil sensed her sadness. You've spoken to someone, he said. Zina nodded. Tomba. He followed me yesterday. He saw us. Obadil's eyes darkened slightly. And what does he believe? That you've bewitched me, she whispered. He thinks I'm cursed. Obadil was silent for a moment. Fear speaks louder than truth, especially in hearts that carry longing. I tried to make him understand, Zina said, sitting beside him. But I think he's jealous. The dragon sighed. Jealousy is a dangerous fire. It burns more than the one who holds it. Zina placed her hand gently on his warm scales. He's not bad. Just confused. I hope he'll come around. Obodil looked at her, his amber eyes soft. Then we must be patient. But far from the cave, Tomba's jealousy had grown into something more dangerous. He sat by the river, staring at the moon's reflection. In his hand, he clutched a stone he had picked up from the path, sharp, black, heavy. He didn't know yet what he would do. But the image of Zina laughing with the dragon haunted him. And in the back of his mind, a new thought crept in. If the dragon were gone, she would come back. The forest that once sang softly now felt heavy in the air, as though it too sensed that something dark had awakened. And deep in the village of Udolo, the quiet ache in Tomba's heart had grown into a storm. He wandered restlessly, unable to sleep. The image of Zina sitting beside the dragon, smiling, laughing, with someone else, haunted him. The girl he had silently cherished was sleeping further away, tangled in something he didn't understand. He wanted to believe she was safe, but how could anyone truly be safe next to a creature with claws the size of his arm and fire in its chest? And yet, Zina had smiled. She had chosen the dragon over him. That thought struck deeper than any blade. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Tomba made a decision. He left his home and walked toward the edge of the village, beyond the farms, beyond the yam fields, where the grass grew high and thick like whispers from the earth. He followed an old winding path that the elders told children to avoid. At the end of that path stood a crooked hut covered in moss, its windows clouded and dark. A small wooden idol hung over the entrance, its eyes hollow. This was the home of Egbura, the witch doctor of Udolo. It was said that Egbura spoke to spirits, that he knew the names of shadows, and that he could twist fate like palm leaves in the wind. People only came to him when desperation left no other road. Tomba stood at the door, fist clenched. His heart beat like a drum. He was scared, but something in him pushed forward. He knocked. The door creaked open slowly, revealing the shadowed interior of the hut. Smoke curled in the air. The smell of herbs and ash stung Tomba's nose. Inside sat Egbura, an old man with skin like cracked leather, eyes sharp as spear tips, and a voice that crawled. Tomba of Udolo, he said, without looking up. Why does the boy with the broken heart visit the one who heals with poison? Tomba swallowed hard. I need your help. Egbura tilted his head, his mouth twitching in a crooked grin. Many need my help. Few return unchanged. I need to stop a dragon, Tomba said, his voice trembling. It has taken someone I care about. Egbura stood slowly, circling the boy like a hunter watching prey. The girl with eyes like dawn. Zina. Tomba nodded, surprised that Egbura knew. The old witch chuckled. I see many things. Some in the fire. Some in dreams. Some in the forest. He reached into a dusty box and pulled out a charm, a black stone wrapped in red thread, cold and heavy. This, Egbura whispered, will weaken the dragon. Hold it close when you are near him, and his strength will crumble. Then he reached for a small bottle filled with shimmering blue liquid. And this, he said, will set the girl's heart free. One drop in her drink, and she will forget the dragon. Her love will return to you. Tomba stared at the items. The charm felt like anger in his palm. The bottle paused with promise. But even now, a voice inside him asked, is this right? I don't want to hurt anyone, Tomba murmured. Egbura's eyes narrowed. Then walk away. But know this, dragons do not give back what they've taken. If you truly love her, you must fight for her. Tomba stood there, torn. He took the charm and the potion. And with it, he took the first step down a darker path. That evening, Zina entered the forest as usual. But something felt wrong. The wind was still, the birds silent. Even the glowing lights that used to dance before her were gone. Inside the cave, Obadiah raised his head slowly. "You feel it too," he said. Zina nodded. "The forest is quiet. It's like it's holding its breath." Obadiah's golden eyes darkened. "There is danger coming. Someone close. Someone torn by love and fear." Zina's heart clenched. "Tomba." The dragon did not answer. But his silence said enough. "He's planning something," she whispered. Obadiah lowered his head, his scales glinting. "I will not hurt him. No matter what he brings." "But what if he tries to hurt you?" she cried. "I do not fear pain," Obadiah said. "I fear losing the forest. Losing peace. And losing the trust we have." Zina reached out, her fingers brushing his scaled face. "I won't let anything happen to you. I promise." The next day, Zina found Tomba waiting for her near the stream. He smiled when he saw her, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "I brought you something," he said, holding out a carved cup. She hesitated. "What is it?" "Just water," Tomba said quickly. "You've been walking all day. You must be tired." Zina took the cup but didn't drink. She looked at him closely. "Why are you here, Tomba?" "I wanted to see you. Talk to you," he said. "You've been gone so much. I miss you." Zina's eyes softened. "I miss you too. But I found something, someone who needs me." Tomba's jaw tightened. "He doesn't deserve you." Zina stepped back slightly. "You saw him, didn't you?" Tomba didn't answer. Zina lowered the cup, her fingers shaking. "There's something in this, isn't there?" "What?" Tomba said too quickly. "You put something in here." Tomba's silence confirmed it. Zina's face fell. "Why, Tomba? Why would you do this?" His voice broke. "Because you're not yourself anymore. He's changed you. I thought if I freed you, you'd come back to me." "I was never lost," Zina said softly. "And I was never yours to save." Tomba looked away. His fingers curled tightly around the charm in his pocket. "He's tricked you," he whispered. Zina shook her head. "No. You're the one who's been tricked, by fear, by jealousy." Tomba looked at her with wide, tearful eyes. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't know what else to do." Zina stepped closer. "Then don't let this charm, or that potion, decide who you become. You still have a choice." But as she walked away, the pain in Tomba's chest twisted tighter. And back in the shadows of his heart, Egbera was watching. That night, Tomba sat alone. The charm was heavy in his hand. The potion lay untouched. The wind howled softly outside his window. But in his heart, another storm raged. He remembered the stories of dragons, fierce, greedy beasts who destroyed villages. And now, a voice whispered in his ear, "You are her only chance. Only you can save her." He tightened his grip on the charm. Tomorrow, he would go to the cave. Tomorrow, he would decide. The night was thick with silence, the kind that wrapped around the forest like a warning. Even the owls held their breath. The moon was only a sliver above the trees, casting pale silver light on the narrow paths between roots and shadows. And through this silence, Tomba walked, slow, tense, the cursed charm from Egbera gripped tightly in his hand. Each step deeper into the forest felt heavier, like the trees themselves were watching, whispering in a language older than time. He knew the way now, he had memorized the route to the dragon's cave, where Zina went every day. Where she smiled. Where she changed. He told himself this was his last chance. That this was for her. That he was doing the right thing. But with each step, doubt began to flicker like dying firelight in his chest. Inside the glowing cave, Obadiah lay resting, his long form curled around smooth river stones. His golden eyes blinked slowly in the warm silence. But he was not asleep. The air had shifted. He could feel a disturbance approaching, heavy with conflict and sorrow. A visitor torn between darkness and love. A soft gust of wind stirred the crystals near the cave walls as the dragon exhaled, calm yet alert. "I feel you, young one," he murmured to the shadows. "But I will not raise fire." Tomba arrived at the mouth of the cave, heart pounding so hard it echoed in his ears. The charm paused like a drum in his palm, its red threads glowing faintly in the dark. He stepped inside, legs shaking. And there he saw it, the creature of his nightmares. Obadiah. Massive. Still. Glowing faintly from within. The dragon looked at him, not with anger, but with sadness. "You've come," Obadiah said softly. Tomba froze. The charm in his hand burned. "You've taken her from me." Tomba shouted, his voice cracking. "You've bewitched her." "I have only listened when she spoke. Only watched when others turned away," Obadiah replied. "You're lying." Tomba raised the charm, ready to strike. But before he could take a step. "Tomba." "No." Zina burst into the cave, breathless, her eyes wide with fear. She ran straight between the boy and the dragon, arms outstretched, blocking his path. Tomba stumbled backward in shock. "Zina. What? How did you?" "I followed you," she panted. "I knew something was wrong. Please, don't do this. You don't understand." Tomba cried, desperation in his voice. "He's fooled you. I'm trying to save you." Zina stepped closer to him, tears in her eyes. "No, Tomba. He didn't fool me. I chose to come here. I choose Obadiah. Not because of magic, but because of truth." Tomba's eyes narrowed. "You love him?" Zina nodded slowly. "Yes. But not the way you think. I love him with my soul. He sees me, really sees me, not as a girl to be won, but as a person with dreams, with voice. He's my friend. My family." Tomba's hands trembled. "But I love you. I thought." Zina gently stepped forward. "I know. And I care about you. I always have. But love isn't something we can demand or force." Behind her, Obadiah remained still. His golden eyes never left Tomba. There was no threat in his gaze, only deep understanding. Tomba looked at the charm in his hand, then at the girl standing before him, defending a dragon with nothing but her heart. He looked down. He could feel it now, how wrong this felt. How the charm pulsed with hate, not love. How his intentions had twisted into something he didn't recognize. He had become something else. And Zina had seen it. Tomba closed his eyes. With a long, shaky breath, he loosened his grip. The charm slipped from his hand and fell to the cave floor with a dull clink. The glow vanished. The cave fell still. Tomba opened his eyes, his vision blurry. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know what else to do." Zina stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. "I forgive you," she said softly. He stood frozen, unable to speak. Shame burned in his chest. Then, without a word, he turned and ran away from the cave, from the dragon, from the girl, from the mess he had made. Zina watched him go until his footsteps disappeared into the forest. She turned back to Obadiah, who exhaled a warm breath that shimmered in the air. "You did not stop him with force," the dragon said. "You stopped him with truth." Zina wiped her eyes. "I only told him what I felt." "And you told him with love," Obadiah said. "That is the strongest magic of all." Zina sat beside him, resting her head gently against his warm scales. "You trusted me," she whispered. Obadiah's golden eyes closed slowly. You have given me no reason not to. They sat together in silence, two souls of different worlds bound by something stronger than fear, or even blood. And in the forest beyond, the wind stirred again. But this time, it did not carry warning. It carried peace. The sun rose slowly over Udolo, its golden light stretching across the land like fingers wiping away the night. Birds began to sing again, timidly at first, as if checking to see if it was safe. It was. But in the heart of the village, Tomba had not slept. After fleeing the cave, he had wandered through the dark forest, his heart a whirlwind of emotions, shame, regret, confusion, and something new, clarity. He had nearly lost himself. Nearly hurt the very people he loved most. And all because he had listened to fear. Now, as the morning breeze brushed against his face, Tomba stood once more before the crooked hut of Egbra, the witch doctor. The door creaked open before he could knock. Egbra was already waiting, leaning on his twisted staff, his expression unreadable. You return, the old man rasped, his voice like dry leaves scraping stone. But your hands are empty. Tomba held up a small leather pouch. The charm. I came to give it back. Egbra's eyes narrowed. You didn't use it. No, Tomba said firmly. And I never will. Egbra's face twisted into a sneer. Foolish boy. You could have had her heart. You could have destroyed the beast and taken your place in her life. I don't want her love through trickery, Tomba replied, his voice steady now. And Obadiah is not a beast. He's more human than I was when I came here. Egbra's lip curled. The dragon has bewitched you too, I see. No, Tomba said. He opened my eyes. And I won't let you keep poisoning this village with fear. The witch doctor's smile disappeared. You dare to challenge me, he hissed. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Tomba replied. But the village needs to know the truth. About you. About Obadiah. About everything. And without another word, Tomba turned and walked away. Behind him, Egbra's angry muttering faded into the wind. By midday, Tomba stood before the villagers of Udolo, gathered around the great baobab tree. His heart pounded, but he didn't waver. I have something to say, he began. The crowd murmured, elders, mothers, children. Even Mama Abeni and Kofi, Zina's parents, looked on curiously. I know some of you have wondered where Zina has been going, Tomba continued. And I know many of you fear the forest. You've heard stories, old ones, about dragons and dark things. He paused. Some of those stories aren't true. And the ones that are, don't tell the whole tale. Then, for the first time, Tomba told them everything. How Zina had discovered Obadiah, the dragon hidden in the forest. How the creature was not a monster, but a wise and lonely being who had become Zina's friend. How Tomba, blinded by jealousy, had nearly harmed him and Zina. And how Egbra, the witch doctor, had fueled that jealousy with dark magic and lies. Gasps rippled through the crowd. One elder stood slowly. You expect us to believe that a dragon is kind? Tomba nodded. Yes. I've seen it with my own eyes. And so has Zina. As if on cue, Zina stepped forward from the crowd. She wore a simple white wrap and carried a small gourd of water, her hair tied back with forest vines. She looked radiant and calm. It's true, she said. Obadiah is not our enemy. He is a guardian. He watches over the forest, and he has never hurt anyone. The murmuring grew louder. Then another voice rose, a woman's, sharp with fear. If he's so peaceful, why hide from us? Because he knew we feared him, Zina said softly. And because we have forgotten how to see with our hearts. Some nodded. Others looked uncertain. Then the ground trembled. A hush fell as the trees at the edge of the village rustled, and from the forest shadows, Obodil appeared. Tall as 3 men, wings folded, golden eyes glowing gently. He moved slowly, with grace, not to threaten, but to show he had nothing to hide. Some villagers stepped back in fear. Others stood frozen. Obodil paused a short distance from the crowd and lowered his massive head in greeting. "I do not come to burn," he said, his voice calm and deep. "I come to offer peace." The village held its breath. Then a small boy stepped forward. "Are you the one who made the flowers bloom by the river?" Obodil chuckled gently. "Yes. The forest listens when you speak kindly to it." The boy smiled. And something shifted. A few villagers stepped closer. An elder lowered his staff. Mama Abeni reached out and took Kofi's hand. Tomba turned to the crowd. "We don't need to fear what we don't understand. Obodil has protected the forest for generations. And now, he has protected us from our own blindness." Zina stood beside Tomba, proud and unshaken. "We have a chance to start again. With trust. With understanding." One by one, the villagers began to nod. A whisper passed through the crowd like wind in tall grass. And for the first time in living memory, the people of Udolo looked upon a dragon not with fear, but with wonder. That night, the village held a gathering under the stars. No drums, no dancing, just peace. Obodil remained near the forest edge, watching silently, content. The elders declared him the guardian of Udolo, a sacred protector of both nature and truth. And Zina. She was named Daughter of the Forest, a bridge between the human world and the ancient one. Her story became a song that the griots carried from village to village. As for Tomba, he remained close to Zina, not as a suitor, but as a friend reborn. He helped restore the forest paths and taught the children what he had learned, that jealousy can cloud the heart, but forgiveness can cleanse it. And Egbora. When the villagers came to question him, they found his hut abandoned. The charms were gone. The smoke had cleared. No one knew where he went, and no one ever saw him again. Years passed. The forest flourished. Zina often visited Obodil, who continued to grow wiser and older, his scales glowing brighter with time. Sometimes she would sit beside him and listen to the wind, remembering how it all began, with glowing lights, a hidden cave, and a dragon who chose to trust. And so, in the village of Udolo, the legend was passed down. Of the kind-hearted dragon. Of the brave girl who saw with her soul. And of a love that was not born of romance, but of truth, respect, and deep friendship. A story that reminded all who heard it. That even the fiercest flame can burn not to destroy, but to light the way. The end.